Would you like to be wealthy? Of course, we'd all like to be wealthy. You know, I've been fortunate. I've gotten to know many, many people worth millions of dollars, many people worth tens of millions of dollars, and even a few billionaires. And through that, I've picked up a couple valuable secrets from them. And today I want to share that with you. So let's go for a walk and talk about who wants to be a billionaire, or better yet, you know, what the secrets are of the people that have gotten there. And I think one of the first secrets is, you know, they seem to care less about buying things to impress other people, right? They're happy to spend money on things that they think are going to improve themselves as people, that are going to improve the lives of their kids, better educations, maybe help their kids out with a house payment, down payment, things like that. They're happy to spend money on things that are going to earn them money. Invest in a company, invest in equities, invest in bonds, stocks, things like that. But they're less caught up with impressing their neighbors. And it's almost like the cool kid in high school, right? I was never the cool kid in high school. I was kind of in the second ring of friends outside looking in a little bit. And, you know, so occasionally, I'd buy the right tennis shoes, or, you know, the right shirt, or whatever was the fashion back in the 1980s when I was a kid. But you know what? Wealthy people are not buying fancy cars to impress you. You know what the number one car is of millionaires, according to the book, The Millionaire Next Door? It's Hondas and Toyotas, right? Cars that probably look a lot like you and I. And when we think of millionaires, that's not necessarily what we think of. We might be thinking, you know, people driving Bentleys and Mercedes-Benz and things like that. But it turns out that's not the case. So they don't spend money to impress. In fact, if you stay to the end, I'm going to share with you one of the world's richest people, what kind of house this individual lives in. So be sure to stay to the end. And, you know, another secret is, you know, really having an understanding of what money is. You know, when you're struggling to get by, when you're first starting off in life, you know, money is just survival, right? Money is a way to pay your bills. And then as you kind of get past that, then money is a way to get access to some of the assets that you'd like to have, maybe a nicer car, maybe a house. And by having a good income, you can get debt, you can get a mortgage, and you can help get some of the material things that you'd like to have, both as an investment, but then also just from a comfort of life. But I think the one thing that I've noticed with wealthy people is they look at money differently. Money is a tool to make money. Money is a tool to, you know, buy some creature comforts, to make their life better, to continuously improve, as I said earlier. But it's also a way to make money, and they look at it that way. They look at, you know, what can I buy? How can I invest my money in real estate, in stocks, in bonds, in other companies? How can they have their money working as hard as they can? And, you know, the irony is, because they're looking at that, you know, and they're investing their money, oftentimes, many times, wealthy people do not look like wealthy people. And the irony is, many people the people that do look wealthy, those tend to be people that, not always, but tend to be people that have using a lot of debt. They're not wealthy, but they want to look wealthy. So, you know, the people that are wealthy don't look wealthy, and the people that want to be wealthy but aren't, and maybe are looking wealthy now, where they're spending tomorrow's dollars in order to look that way today. And I don't think that's a good way to do things. You know, wealthy people don't have to prove that they're wealthy. And I think trying to impress other people is really a negative. So, you know, not only is it expensive to try to impress people, right? These brands, the things that signal wealth, tend to be really expensive. So they're expensive, and it can also create stress in your life, right? Figuring out how you're going to pay for all of this, managing the debt and having that type of debt load on you can really be a burden to people. And again, you know, if you have money, you don't have anything to prove. And, you know, there's a saying that wealth don't have to prove, excuse me, wealth don't have to prove nothing. And I think there's a lot I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, you know, if you want to be a millionaire, I think it's important to think poor, right? If you want to be rich, think poor. Not necessarily poor, but just be cognizant of how you're investing your money. So, you know, if you're doing everything that you can and you're still not saving as much money as you want, you know, there's a couple things to think about. One is, can you get your savings greater than 10%? I think 10% is the minimum that people need to be saving in order to have a secure financial future. And unfortunately, I think you really need to be closer to 20%. So if you're at the 10% level, what can you do to get to the 20% level? And I think there's a couple things you can do. One, you know, some that can be done more quickly than others. On the subject of doing it more quickly, what can you do to start saving more money? You know, really think through, what are your wants and what are your needs? So your needs obviously are things like your mortgage or your rent, your utility bill, your car to get to work, food, clothing, you know, support for your kids, things like that. Those are your needs. But really think about things outside of that. Those are the wants. And we saw during COVID that, you know, the average American went from saving like 5% to, it was the highest savings rate the United States, I believe, has ever seen, or it's been many, many decades. But it's like 20% during COVID. And why is that? Well, we couldn't go out to eat. There wasn't a lot of ways for us to spend money. And plus, many people had access to more money than they had in the past because of some of the government support programs. So, you know, during COVID, I think a lot of us found out, you know, what our needs are and what our wants are, because we just couldn't do the things that we wanted to do. So that tends to be a faster way to get there, is make this list of the wants and needs. And you can do anything for 30 days and see if you can live on those needs, and then bring in the wants based on the value, based on the joy that these other things bring to you. And then on the slower path, you know, how do you get from 10% savings to 20% savings over time? There, I think there's a couple things you can do. You know, every time you get a promotion or you get a raise at work, you know, half of that goes to your current self and half of that goes to your future self. So I think that, you know, that's going to take time, right? It might be a couple years till you get a promotion. Hopefully you're getting a decent raise every year. And half of that's for current you, and you can spend that, and half of that you want to save. Now, at the beginning of the video, I promised to share with you what one of the wealthiest person in the world, what his house looks like. Let's talk about two people. One is Warren Buffett. And any guesses on what Warren Buffett paid for his house? Warren Buffett paid $31,000 for his house. Now, admittedly, in 1958. But he still lives in that same house, and it's not very big. I understand it's like 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. Plus, he lives in Omaha, so that's the housing market is less expensive there. And then another, I believe right now, the wealthiest person in the United States is Elon Musk, and many times he's got a prefab building that he lives in the factory near one of his manufacturing facilities in Texas. So he works so many hours, he just has his prefabricated 800 square foot home that basically has a bedroom, a kitchen, a restroom, things like that. So these are definitely wealthy people looking and living like average people. And I think we all can learn a lot from it. I think another thing that you can learn a lot from is I've got another video that talks about 8 things to stop doing in order to enjoy life more, particularly as we approach our mid-50s and 60s. You can find that video here. It's kind of part 2 of this video. I hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye.